Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show our first ever guest. He is part of the Steel Army, which we discussed in the last episode. It's Daniel Yost. Welcome to the show, Daniel. How are you doing?
I'm great, Greg. Thanks for having me.
I just wanted to start with this question. So, how did it all come about with the small gathering that you had in 2007? How did it transform into what it's become today?
As you just kind of alluded to, we the group started off in 2007. The team had actually taken a kind of a 1 year hiatus. They're having kind of switching stadiums and trying to find a new place to play. So they took a year off. From the league was called USL 2 at that point, and
Okay.
a bunch of interested people kind of were talking on chat rooms and everything like that because I was popular in the you know,
Yeah.
late 2000s, and I was not a part of that at the time. But yeah, from there they all decided to meet at kind of the de facto soccer bar in the city. It's kind of a English Scottish
Yeah. Yeah.
restaurant called Piper's Pub.
Okay.
And yeah, and they from there it was just a small group, and they decided to get this thing kicked off, and so they started from there, going to that next season,
Okay.
and
And so were the games televised at that point, just with it being the lower tier?
so I the timeline might be off when the team first started, which is like 99 2000.
Okay.
There were games on TV,
Sure.
and then as it went on, they lost that local TV coverage. So at that time, I don't believe they had a at least not a consistent television partner in Pittsburgh.
Okay. Yeah. And so was the ambition, do you think, from the start with the small gathering, was it to become this what it's become today, like a big fan group, or was it just to go and enjoy the games, or
I think it started off just trying to go and enjoy the games, and there was kind of a in the back of the mind hope that maybe something could spark from that.
okay.
Uh,
And
yeah.
like, so did the European game, did that have an influence on soccer in America, or was it just solely because it was part of Pittsburgh? What was the reason behind getting into soccer?
Well, speaking for myself, I would
Yeah,
say
for yourself.
I got back into it about 10 years ago. I enjoyed it when I was younger, and then middle school, high school kind of goes around, and uh, I kind of it was again back in the states. Soccer was for a long time not easy to find on television, so it
Yeah.
was just the access to it was not there like it is today. And then yeah, about 10 years ago, I got back into it through friends and friends of friends, and it became more prevalent on TV and things like that. And so I enjoy uh, watching the foreign leagues. I have an English team I follow. I have a German team I like to follow.
Who are they?
Um, so my English team is Reading,
Okay.
and my German team is Dusseldorf.
That's two very um like not the standard choices. A lot of people that I know from America, they'll support Man United or the bigger
Yeah,
sort of teams.
no, they're not the big teams. Definitely not the bigger teams. That partially came around one when I was getting into it, and you're looking at the clubs. I definitely didn't want to follow anything big.
Okay.
And then two was I liked Reading's kind of ownership structure at the time. Sir John Majeski was in charge. It was
Okay.
kind of a very very prudent way to follow in the club. And at that time, I also took a study abroad trip to Dusseldorf.
Oh, excellent.
So I was there for a couple weeks, and then I found out that Dusseldorf and Reading are like sister cities, and so it all kind of came together.
Oh, wow, that's a really good connection to have. And as
So
well,
well,
like the fan base in Germany must inspire a lot of the fan groups in America as well, just with their fanatical nature sort of thing. In England, it's kind of dropping off, but it's starting to become bigger again. But certainly in Germany, there's the flags and the singing non-stop.
what's interesting to me when you look at the American supporters culture and you compare it to what's going on around the world, much like the country itself, it's a lot of pulling parts from this country and parts from that country.
Yeah.
So you when you see the big flags and tifo displays, it definitely has a German feel to it. A lot of the singing and chanting has more of an English feel to it. Some of the art displays, especially if you get a little more in the southern parts of the country, there's definitely a much more of a Hispanic flair to
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
supporting. So it
And like,
definitely it's a melting pot.
and it seems like you've got the best of both worlds, because obviously I read that you guys still do the tailgating as well, which is it's like American football sort of thing. You do the
Oh,
tailgating as well as having the singing and then the banners. You just have the best of everything, which is pretty
oh,
much what
absolutely.
America is about.
Yeah. No, no, the tailgating it's an essential part of the game day experience. Um,
And
you
so
know, like
is a good relationship with the club and the fan group.
we do. We actually do have a very. I can't speak for every every supporters group in the team in this league, but for us, we have a very good relationship with the club. We have a pretty open line of communication between them. We're not afraid to tell them when we don't like what's happening or between certain
Okay.
sauce, and likewise, they're not afraid to tell us if they see an issue or a potential problem. Doesn't mean that they're going to listen to us. It doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily listen to them. But we are not afraid to communicate with each other, and at the least, it means that we're being honest with each other, and
Yeah, exactly.
we know what the other side's thinking. So and usually we can come to some sort of a middle ground on something. So no, we it's a very very open relationship with the team.
And so as well, what's the like policies in terms of flares as well? Are you allowed like flares in the game, or
So not we can't do flares. That's
okay,
we
against the
do
policies?
yeah, we do smoke. Flares we actually had to fight a little bit for smoke just because of local ordinances against fireworks, which would be the
Okay,
same thing as
sure,
flares
yeah,
and founders. So even if it wasn't a team issue, it's more of a local ordinance issue. So yeah, we don't do flares. Smoke we do, and we have it in abundance. But yeah,
okay.
flares is something we haven't touched.
And so as well with the stadium, which was in 2013, I believe, was that a big factor in gaining more support for the team?
That was the jumping off point for a lot of people,
Okay,
myself included, was because prior to that they were basically playing every couple of years. They're getting a new lease at a high school stadium here and a high school stadium there, so they weren't actually in the city proper until 2013
okay,
when they
and
moved the Highmark Stadium.
and so they didn't really have a home kind of thing.
No, it was 2 years here, 3 years there, 1 year here, and
Okay,
nothing that they owned. So when
and
they
so
moved to Staymark,
yeah, on you go.
yeah. So when they moved to Highmark, one, it's they own the venue, which was
Okay,
huge,
sure, okay. And
and
so
then two, they're in the city.
how, how long will they be able to keep that stadium for? Is it just as long as they want? Is it no longer a lease? It's completely their thing.
No, they own it.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, they own the stadium. They do not, at least in not that I be speaking out to. I guess I'll say that for another conversation. But they do not own the land the stadium is on, but they own the building
Okay, sure.
itself. So they have to dump some money into that. They don't actually they don't own the parking lot right next to the stadium. So they're not seeing
Okay.
any of that revenue, but they own the stadium, and so they do a pretty good job of keeping it full between soccer and maybe a concert this night, and they'll do some college soccer there and some high school soccer
Yeah.
and things like that. So they do a good job of keeping it filled. So that revenue stream is coming in for them.
And it seems to me that they are trying to promote soccer as much as they possibly can, especially with having like high school, college there as well, and then the team as well, trying to influence it more in the city.
Oh, that's definitely the way that they're trying to approach it. Is if they can sell the sport and grow the sport itself in the city, then that'll help them along the way, as that'll be if you want to go watch this. But they definitely take an approach of selling the sport as a whole to the city, and the city's getting
Yeah.
the city's getting younger now. It's getting a little like
What does it all mean by that? Because I read about I've also been doing a lot of reading about Pittsburgh, but it seems like it's becoming like more popular city. Was it not before?
no, it's the actual. population of the city isn't changing that much, but it's definitely
Okay.
getting younger.
So it's
As
more trendy sort of thing.
Yeah, trendy, young professional. It's big on medicine. It's big on robotics and computers and technology. Those are the fields that are growing in the city,
Okay,
while
sure.
the the old stereotypes and the old perception of it being like a rust town steel mill are going by the wayside. So
Yeah, okay.
and so there's younger people moving to the city. There's less people moving away from the city, and so it's definitely getting younger. And now that gives them a new demographic for the team to try to reach out for, with that kind of that young professional, out of college, mid-20s to early 30s group
Okay, yeah.
that they're trying to
Lots of
find.
partying.
Oh, it's massively important to get that. I think that's what every city that has a soccer team in this country is trying to grab, that group of people.
Exactly. And so would you say that soccer is still a long way behind the other three major sports in Pittsburgh with baseball, hockey, and football, or do you think it's kind of getting there?
Oh, it's still way behind. It's
Is
it's
it,
definitely it's definitely a distant fourth behind those other three,
and
which
do you
isn't
think that's a
necessarily
good
wrong.
thing?
I I I'm sure a lot of other people may not agree with this, but I think it's not a bad. It's not necessarily a good thing, but it's not a bad thing. Um, I personally I enjoy that it's more of a niche thing
Yeah.
in the city, and that it's not the trendy thing to do. And
Yeah.
so everyone who's going to that game, they're not there just to do the new popular thing. They're there because they want to be there.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it makes it for a better atmosphere, because it's not people there just to kind of see what the fuss is about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's kind of as well like it's your own special thing, whereas everybody, is probably really invested in another team, but you have that really niche thing that it's just your club. It's you pretty much your weekend really is all about the club sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, again, and most of us that are in the Stu Army, and most of us that go to these games, most of us still love the Steelers. We still love the Penguins. We still love the Pirates.
Yeah,
And that doesn't go away or anything like that. But it's nice that it's our little thing that we could wrap our hands around and say, this is us. This is something that we're much more invested in than those other sports, because to a certain degree, how we respond to the team and how we interact with the team has direct impact on how the team operates.
exactly. Yeah,
So you can take a little bit of ownership of it.
and so there's one name I wanted to bring up, being Paul Child. What does that mean to you?
Paul Child's a legend.
And
I mean,
is he still involved with the club? Because obviously I knew he had a managerial position like the assistant coach, but does he still go to the games, or how does that all work?
yes, he is. If you listen to the broadcast, he is one of the three commentators in the box
Oh wow!
in the broadcast.
And
So listen out for that next year when you find the games. He's a pretty soft spoken fellow, but he's a great guy. But so the 3-man broadcast booth is it's Paul is one of the color guys, along with Gene Klein, who's another very notable soccer name in the city.
okay,
And then a gentleman by Matt Gatcha is the play-by-play guy.
okay, excellent. But also, you know how Paul Child obviously rose to notoriety because of playing in the indoor football league. Was that the second division kind of thing back then as well?
For indoor soccer,
Yeah, or is that an
yeah,
off-season thing?
it they weren't really overlapping leagues. Like the indoor league still exists here in the States.
Oh, does it?
Uh, it does still exist. It's pretty small, but it still exists.
Okay.
There's actually a guy on the Riverhounds, Canardo Forbes. He's actually still playing
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
indoor leagues.
No way.
So yeah, so in the off season, he goes up to, right now he's with a team up in Syracuse. So who's actually, you'll be able to follow. Kenny Forbes. He plays for the Syracuse team, and so that's what he does in his off season. He still plays a little indoor, but yeah, the seasons, they kind of overlap. Like the beginning of the outdoor season kind of overlaps with the end of the indoor season.
Okay.
But they're not really in direct competition with each other.
And so Is there an opportunity for the Riverhounds to ever go into the MLS, or is it based on with a stadium size like it is here? You need to have a certain size of stadium, certain amount of wins, certain amount of success. Because I know there's obviously no playoff system to get to the MLS.
Yeah, there's no promotion relegation. If you talk to people here in the States about promotion relegation, you'll get into
Heated debate.
an endless debate about it. It's the talking point that everyone loves to go on and on and on about. So, do I ever see the Hounds going into MLS? I do not. It's again the cities that they're taking out. Like Cincinnati's going to be in the MLS next year. Nashville's going to be there in 2020. I mean, they're taking teams. Basically, they're looking for three things. They're looking for a new stadium, state-of-the-art stadium.
Okay.
They are looking for a city with big interest. And then most importantly, they're looking for ownership groups with very, very, very deep pockets. So,
so it's a lot to do with the financial side of things as well.
Financials is issue 1, 2, and 3. Yeah.
And so how come Cincinnati are getting in? Because that's obviously a smaller city, isn't it?
It's comparable to Pittsburgh in size, but they have put together an ownership group that is pretty well funded. To be honest, Cincinnati's a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you said it.
In terms of where they were, the team's only a couple years old, and a couple years before that, it's now a pretty infamous quote. Don Garber, who is the commissioner of Major League Soccer, was asked about various cities and their chances of ever going to MLS, and the Cincinnati was one of the cities that came up, and his response was something to the lines of that'd be nice, but Cincinnati should really try to get behind Columbus as their MLS city because there's a team in Columbus.
Yeah,
and that was pretty much a very polite way of dismissing the fact that there would never be a team in Cincinnati. And then that first year that Cincinnati played in USL, which is the league the Hounds are in, it blew up. It got huge real fast.
So how come that the Columbus Crew, who obviously were experiencing financial difficulty themselves and had the whole Save the Crew campaign, how can they still coexist with the Cincinnati team coming into the MLS as well? Isn't that going to take supportership away?
The two cities are not terribly close together.
Okay.
It's a couple hours drive, so they're not right on top of each other.
Sure.
The Crew fan base is there. I can't see anyone leaving the Crew because those fans, they've been in it for the long haul. They're pretty dedicated to that team. They're not moving anytime soon.
No. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't see Cincinnati seconding off Columbus fans or anything like that.
How long did Cincinnati play in the ASL before moving up, which is next year, obviously?
3 years.
And did they have financial backing from the beginning, as in large financial backing?
Yes. They were backed. They were backed pretty well from the start. And that's one of the best things they did with that first year is they spent a lot in marketing. And they did a great job of getting the word out.
Sure.
About the team. So they played their cards right. They spent a lot of money, but they spent it well, and they're going to MLS. Now, with that said, with all that said, I think if you ask a lot of Steel Army members and people who enjoy the Hounds, I think a fair amount of them would not want to go to MLS unless there was unless there was promotion relegation. But the kind of people like to say it's kind of buying your way into it.
True, yeah, that is true.
I don't think a fair amount of people don't want to go that route because you see what's happened, the fiasco with the Columbus Crew, and you hear about the MLS coming down on this supporters group for doing this, or they're coming down on this supporters group for doing that, or they're having this issue. It's USL is definitely a much more authentic version of the game.
Okay. MLS. It's more like grassroots football thing.
It's definitely much more grassroots. There's no, not that any team spends a ton in this league, but there's no salary cap like MLS. There's no, draft for new players. There's, very American concepts that MLS uses that don't work in USL, and so
Okay.
it's a much more, to me, a much more authentic thing. If you told me right now, Dan, just say the word and the Hounds will be in MLS, I would probably pass on it right now.
It honestly, with the way that you're speaking about it, it definitely seems that way. Obviously, with me being Scottish, we play the game like the USL rather. There's obviously none of this American type drafts or anything like that. No salary cap, which I do think is much better. But how far would you say the terms of quality of football differentiates between the two leagues?
It's getting closer every year. I'd say it's getting closer and closer. Obviously, MLS is a couple steps above.
Yeah,
and it's the top end players of MLS, because they do the designated player, and that's how they're able to afford, the bigger international stars, like Giovinco in Toronto, and play, because those players don't count against the salary cap, so they can spend whatever they want to spend on those guys. And so the top end players in MLS, I mean, they push the whole thing up. But if you took like your bottom third of a roster of an MLS team, that's like an above average USL player.
Okay.
So I think that the top end is much higher than USL, but I think when you get like into the depth positions, it's not that big of a jump.
And so who are the Hounds' main rival in the league?
Oh, what a fantastic time to ask that. So our main rival is Harrisburg, which is a city about 3.5-4 hours east of Pittsburgh.
It's still in Pennsylvania. Is that right?
Still in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
However, they are moving down the league. They've had ownership issues. They have not had their own stadium, and so they are actually taking 2019 off, and then they're going to move down to what's being called USL League One.
Okay.
Because they're restructuring the whole league itself. So the Hounds will be playing in it's very much based off the English system. The Hounds will be playing in the USL Championship, which is Division 2. And then below that will be USL League 1, which is Division 3. And there's going to be USL League 2, which is technically Division 4, kind of not. It's an amateur league. It's like a top prospect amateur league. But basically everything below Division 3 is just like a coverall fourth division. So that's where you have like these summer college teams and like just adult teams, adult beer league teams. They kind of all fall in that Division 4 blanket. So our main rival is going to be dropping down the league, and so that kind of leaves us
stranded.
It kind of leaves us stranded there. A couple of the other teams that are within a couple hours drive of us, they're kind of facing similar issues right now. If you go north a couple hours to Rochester, they're dropping down in 2020. And those were the two closest teams to us. So now for us to go to an away trip, I think the closest drive now is 5.5 hours.
Oh, gee.
Which is, I know.
Is that a flight or is that even drivable?
Oh, no, we could drive it.
Okay.
But I do enjoy that when you hear some of the distances, that some teams in Europe, they're big rivals, 15 miles down the road or something.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine something as glorious as that. So,
I mean, some teams like Liverpool have obviously Everton right on their doorstep pretty much, but it seems incredible the way that they've got the USL to be, because it seems like a better league to be in than even the MLS, which is obviously the top division. And with the new structure, is it going to be a playoff type idea where the League 2 of US soccer, but the League Two of the ASL, League One of the ASL, will they be able to go up to a league, or are they staying there for as long as they get the financial backing?
So to that, they're not coming out and directly saying it,
Okay.
but they're starting to hint, because they won't use the words promotion relegation, but they're definitely laying down the groundwork that if everything goes well for the next couple of years, that's something they would consider introducing. Would be some form of promotion relegation between the USL Championship and the USL League One.
Why do they not want to? Because it just makes the league so much more interesting.
It does. It's same thing that MLS doesn't want to get into it, and early, I guess this is me kind of hypothesizing a bit, but ownership of teams don't want the risk of having the
Of
ball
going down. Okay, because the fans might jump ship.
Again, think of it in American terms, that you bought a franchise in this league. So you've bought, if there's 28 teams in the leagues, you've bought 1/28 of the league. And
yeah, that's true.
And you bought it at a time where there was never a discussion of having promotion relegation. Why would that owner now voluntarily take the chance of losing that investment through relegation when it's not something you signed up for?
I just never think of it like that, but when you lay it out like that, I'm probably with the GMs of the teams in the league, because I wouldn't want to lose my stock either, pretty much.
But then you find all these American owners that are now buying up English football teams. You go, well, it's not so bad for them over there, but they don't want to do it over here. Huh.
I think the overarching thing about the Riverhounds for me is that a lot of like, especially in American football, for example, if your team's doing bad, you're probably not going to get the crowds. Take the Redskins, for example. But like with the Riverhounds, they're a team that obviously have had a history of losing seasons. So you guys that support the team are there to support the team. It's not just because they're doing well. You're going to be there whether they win, lose, or draw, which is obviously the best thing about any fan base.
Yeah, I mean, like that. So if this is 2018, so that 2016 season was just an absolute train wreck.
What was it? Okay.
And by the last third of that season, I mean, you already know what the result's gonna be. It was just, you're just sitting at that point, just hang out with your friends, have a couple of drinks, have a good laugh, and maybe you'll see something cool happen. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely been a core of people that have not wavered in their support of the team, and that I enjoy. So
yeah.
Like I said, the team started to turn around last year. There's no reason to think they can't stay on that, trajectory for 2019. Even though, I mean, the league's just getting tougher and tougher every year. But it'll make it all that much sweeter when they finally pull through this. To know that you sat through the really bad years, so now you can really enjoy
exactly.
the good years.
And so, how does the league itself work in terms of? Do you win the league in order to be the champions, or is it again a playoff system?
They do use a playoff. It's America. You can't get away from not having a playoff.
Okay.
There'd be like laws against not having a playoff. Americans love playoffs. We love them. So how the league is set up, there is an Eastern and Western Conference.
Yeah.
And there are, just like the NHL, just like the NBA, and this year it looks like there will be 16 teams in the East and 16 teams in the West.
Holy shit! That's a lot of teams to be playing in the second league of American soccer.
But you never see a team from an East team doesn't see a team in the West and vice versa. So
okay, sure.
So they're essentially two separate 16-team leagues.
Okay. And then they meet the playoffs?
Check that. Let me correct that. There's going to be 18 teams in the East and 18 in the West. 18 and 18.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's the top 8 from the East, top 8 from the West into the playoffs. And then so the USL Championship is, the remaining team from the East and the remaining team from the West. And this year, that should be the only time an East and West team will meet is in the league championship.
Okay. And so the Riverhounds have never made it there? Would that be right?
That is correct. They have not won a Riverhounds have not won a playoff game in. Oh, I don't want to have to look it up. I think we're over a decade now since they last won a playoff game.
Wow.
When
That's real support, though.
When they hosted the playoff game this last, the end of last season back in October, that was the 6th year of Highmark Stadium, and that was the first playoff game that was hosted there.
Oh, wow.
So that's
a long time.
That was our first home playoff game that long. The last time they were in a playoff game was against the New York team 3 years earlier.
Okay. So just to finally wrap it all up, where do you feel the Steel Army will be in the next 5 to 10 years?
I mean, if anyone could know that definitively, they can make a lot of money if they knew exactly how this would play out. But I am optimistic. If you asked me this time a year ago, I would have said probably just more of the same, in that couple hundred people as like in terms of like the really dedicated fans.
Yeah.
And there would be, 2,500 to 3,000 people at each game. After this past year, I'm much more optimistic. They brought in Bob Lilly as the head coach, before last season, and he's turned things around very, very well. It's going to be more of the same. So, and the local media, local television news and things like that, they started to notice. So now it's getting to the point that if you tell people the Riverhound, they don't look at you like, what the hell are you talking about? They know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So that first hurdle is starting to be, people were trying to get over that first hurdle, and it's starting to get there. So the just having people know what they are and what it is starting to happen. So I am optimistic that if they have a couple more good years and the name gets out there even more, that it's going to start growing. So 5 years from now, like I said, the stadium has now been increased where it seats 5,000 people.
Okay.
I would like to think in 5 years' time they are consistently filling that place up every game.
I certainly hope it does.
Yeah. Which you think, 5,000 people should not be that difficult. Man, they make it difficult to they make it difficult. The team does. They make it. They've made it difficult
exactly.
For people to, just by not.
People are attracted to success, so
they're attracted. People are attracted to success, and they've never marketed themselves that well, to be honest. So, if you combine the winning plus getting the name out there, I am optimistic that there's going to be more games closer to sold out than not. And then 10 years from now, I don't even want to. Who knows?
It seems to me that the most important part of the Riverhounds anyway was the Steel Army. Like when I started researching it, that the reason that I joined, I've just paid for my membership to it. Although I'll probably never go to a game this year anyway, but hopefully one day I will. But still, like it seems like the Steel Army for me is a bigger point of sale than the team itself, because what you guys have got going is really incredible.
Yeah, it definitely was never what we set out for, but it's if it helps sell the team, we're not against it by any means, because what's good for them is good for us, obviously.
Exactly.
So we're more than happy to have that happen. And again, it's our section of the stadium is hopping, happening, good time. So we get a little loud, a little excited, and if that comes off well on TV and comes off well on commercials and everything like that, then all the better for everyone. No.
Exactly. Well, I do hope to see you one day for a beer in Pittsburgh. Hopefully it'll be next year. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Greg. Yeah, when you finally get out here, let us know. We will have what's the beer of choice?
Ooh, I'm not sure. Anything but Budweiser.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a Budweiser consumed at our tailgate ever.
Okay, that's going to be the ending statement for this Steel Army. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks. Bye.